What's up, folks? The day after the primary, sitting here on the couch, spent all day kind of thinking about and processing what happened and the results, and started thinking about the bigger picture about Maryland politics and national politics, and just wanted to sit with my thoughts before I said something. I knew I would say something, but I wanted to sit with my thoughts before I did. Um, am I unhappy that I'm not going to be state delegate? Yes. Am I happy with the selections that were made? Also, yes. How can I reconcile those two things? Well, I believe in elections. I believe in the power of the vote. If the people wanted those three people, congratulations to Edith, Deborah Davis, and Abina, then the people got those people that they wanted. And I'm happy that they casted their ballots and made their voices heard. Would I have liked to have been one of those three people? 100%. But holding those three people that were moving forward in the primary, and because we're in Maryland and Maryland is blue, 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 the primary elections are the key to electing the individuals that represent your needs at the state level. Winning the primary is extremely high percentage rate of converting over into being the elected official as a Democrat in Maryland. So the primary in Maryland and states like Maryland are where expectation setting happens, where the priorities are made public. And that's why it's heartbreaking to see the turnout was so low. Statewide, the turnout had no county with more than 4.5% of eligible voters came out. Talking about 17% or so in Charles County. Out of 100 people registered to vote, 17 actually came out to vote. If you pay attention to the social media chambers, the complaints about Charles County, the complaints about where we live, significantly outnumber the number of people that had an opportunity to turn those complaints into action. And that's a bit frustrating. Given that I know a lot of people are disenchanted with the politics and the political process at the federal level, and all the turmoil that's come from Doge and all the things that the federal government has done to the state of Maryland, given our proximity, I understand that people are disenchanted. But when you're given the opportunity to make your voice heard and send people to Annapolis with your specific desires in mind, and you pass on it. You had early voting, you had mail-in ballots, you had election day. The opportunities to vote were there. The desire didn't seem to be there. And I've seen people already say that Maryland needs to open up the primaries to independents, and I dug into the voter rolls and looked at registered voters. And I mentioned this on somebody's post earlier today. But independent voters and Republican voters together are less than registered Democratic voters in the state. Now, of course, the independent voters could have added numbers to either the Democrat or Republican primaries. But of the registered Democrats, we still didn't get a high enough saturation of voters to get a true representation of the desires and the will of the people. And we have to fix that. We have to fix a couple of things about the election process. As you all are aware, especially now, you didn't see any signs with my names on them. I didn't send any mailers. I didn't text people. I didn't pay for any robocalls. I didn't have a website, although thank you, Brother Gray, for starting that for me. I did have some things in the background that I was working on to get my message out. But in every post, in every conversation, all the time, everywhere, and I made this statement on IG, on the page, everyone's complaining about the cost of living. Everyone is talking about how their dollar isn't going as far. We have a president who market manipulates, who's destroying people's 401ks, who's, making gas prices rise because he's stupid enough to follow what Benjamin Netanyahu wanted him to do overseas. There's a lot of volatility in the day to day. We've got screwworm destroying beef. We've got Argentinian beef being imported, which has tariffs on it. A lot of the tariffs were milking people's finances over the last few months. They revoked some of them, but the costs are still there in the pipeline because, as we all know, once a company can charge more for something, regardless of the circumstances that led to them charging more, they will never lower the cost again. That's how inflation works. That's how capitalism works. If I know you will pay X amount of dollars for something, regardless of the reason why it's X amount of dollars, I'm never going to lower the cost again. I'm just not going to, because I'm not going to give away profit, said the capitalist. It felt disingenuous and kind of gross. Now, the people that won, I'm sure, spent money and raised money and had their volunteers and paid people to door knock and all those things, but it felt very gross to me to ask people that I know are hurting, even if they won't say it out loud, to spend $100, $200, $300, $500, $1,000, $3,000, $5,000 to sponsor my campaign. It just felt gross to me. And morally, it just didn't sit right, especially because I have big complaints about the election process and campaign financing in general. I don't believe we should have outside financing of election campaigns whatsoever. Voting and the political process and the citizens' role in that process is so critical. It should be mandated funding as part of a budget line item for every role and every nominee that decides to run. There should be a pool of money for each role, each district that has eligible positions, and that money should be split and allocated equally between all the candidates and allow them to do what they would like to do for that. And because it's state funds, you're not introducing any outside interests. You're not getting money from the realtors, which means that when legislation comes up about rezoning or building or developing, you don't have any obligations. You don't have anybody bothering you or bugging you to say, hey, remember that $100,000 we gave you? Hey, I'm not saying anything, but I'm saying we know how that goes. We know how it goes. The big concerns about Adrian Boafo being an Oracle employee and Larry Ellison and his ties to Trump, all the APAC money, all those things that have come through open you up to criticism, and they open you up to being handled by the people that then financed your campaign. I want money out of politics. When it comes to campaign process, when it comes to lobbying, it needs to be out. And I took an ethical stance that may have cost me my election to not raise any funds. I did. I'll die on that sword. I will go to sleep tonight just fine, just like I did last night, saying I needed more votes. Maybe signs would have helped. Maybe name recognition would have helped. But then I started thinking, 3,000 people voted for me. I know we get into social media now and we look at likes and follows and shares and reactions and think that, 100 likes on something isn't a lot when people are having thousands and millions and stuff. But I took the time today and I thought about, where could I host an event in Charles County with 3,000 people? Where could I do it? There are very few spaces where I could host 3,000 people, unless it's outside. That is a lot of people that heard what I had to say when I said it, or trusted me and my reputation enough to circle in my name. And that's encouraging. That was empowering for me, to be completely honest, because that means my voice is being heard and my voice carries some kind of weight. Now, would I like to get 6,000 or 7,000 votes? Of course. I didn't run to lose. But it's important that we reform the political process to keep people engaged. And we also eliminate so much of the noise, okay? We should formalize forms, candidate forms. We should formalize voter guides. We should formalize the locations where people can go. We know where the voting places will be. We know where the population centers are. The election boards and the state should make it so that whoever wants to be informed about the political process can be informed about the political process with equal weight given to all areas. It shouldn't depend on people recruiting door knockers. And I know it's familial and it's cool and it's how we've always done things, but there are better ways. There have to be better ways, because to get 17% voter turnout, the way we're doing it and the money that was spent, you can pull up people's campaign finance reports. I've had people raising thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that got less than 1,000 votes. That money that left those communities to then vote for those people could have been used for something to help those communities. So it's just crazy to me how the whole process worked out. And I've seen some people post results after the results that have had like kind of crash outs. And then some people with the I told you shows. It comes with the territory. And I know some people are heartbroken that they didn't win their respective elections. And some of the dirtiness of the political game was exposed to me, and I became aware of it. I get it. It's an emotional thing. You spent months, years building a reputation and decided to put your name out there, and you stepped out there to run for an office where you felt like you could make change, and you didn't get it. I'm heartbroken. I'm sad that I'm not going to be a state delegate this go around. But I'm also happy with how I did things. I'm happy that I've been exposed to the process, and I immediately have ideas on how to make it better. And also, having the knowledge that my voice carries weight means I need to continue doing what I'm doing and continue using my voice to speak out against things. I know a lot of people were saying during the campaign that they needed to see more of what I had to say, but my existence, my presence, I always am, and I always speak for what I believe in all the time, everywhere, any chance I get, even when it's unpopular. People don't like talking about politics. People don't like talking about money. People don't like talking about XYZ. I have no problem talking about those things. If you go look at my social media, if you go look at my Facebook, I post about everything all the time. You can look back for years, decades. Crazy I can say decades. Good Lord, I'm old. But I've been on Facebook since you had to have an EDU, so decades is legit. But I've always talked about current events. I've always talked about politics. I've always talked about economics. I've talked about science. During COVID, my voice was one of the voices locally that helped people figure out how to navigate things. So it's important that I use this voice, that I recognize the power that my voice has, and I continue to speak up and speak out about the things that affect us on a day-to-day. And for the state delegates that were elected, accountability is not just a long word that some people have a hard time spelling. Holding you accountable for the things that were said on the campaign trail is key, not just for the people in my race, but for everyone that was elected in the primary. Holding them accountable is our responsibility. If they're not doing what they said they would do, or if they're not doing what you would like them to do when they get into those roles, or if they're an incumbent, you need to make yourself heard. You need to make it uncomfortable for people that don't do what you're asking them to do. They're public servants. They shouldn't be able to come into your community without hearing your complaints if you have them and the praise if you have it. They are there to serve us. So it's important that we hold folks accountable. For the bigger roles like Adrian Buafo, we're going to see how that flashes out with the data centers. It's going to be imperative that we hold folks accountable and we use the power that we have, the levers of government that we have, to fight for what we want and against what we don't. We can't have this apathy. And with the way the turnout looks, it seems like we're going to be apathetic as a state. We cannot afford to do that, okay? We have enough attacks from the federal government. Governor Moore and Donald Trump aren't friends, and so he's going to do whatever he can to affect and hurt our state. He already has. So it's important that we hold people accountable and we do not allow the people that we've entrusted to just do whatever they want to do. Would I have loved to have been state delegate? 100%. Am I unhappy that I didn't get enough votes? 100%. Am I upset about the voter turnout? Yes. There are things we can do to make things better. And we should. Just because we've always done things a certain way doesn't mean we always have to do them that way. It just doesn't. To the 3,000 people that voted for me, thank you so much. Thank you for exercising your constitutional right. Thank you for thinking that what I had to say and who I am was important enough for you to bubble my name in. I appreciate every single one of you. And here's to continued advocacy, continued vocalization of current events, and here's to accountability for the people that we did entrust with these roles. JJ, out.